Hello, and welcome to Waffle Wednesday, the first official episode of the new podcast and video series. Just a way to kind of express some stuff and talk to some friends about some interesting topics. But we've already covered that in the promo, so let's keep it moving. Uh, Today, we've got a really packed show because there has been quite a bit that has occurred in the last week. So we're really going to cover that Wednesday to Wednesday. So from whatever date that was a Wednesday ago to whatever today. Today's the 17th, so to 10th. Excuse me. So from June 10th to June 17th today. Okay. Recording actually on Wednesday, which is pretty cool. But anywho, so we've had a lot go on. We had the NBA Finals. We had the Stanley Cup. With the World Cup start, which, if anyone knows me, knows that's a huge deal for me. I'm a huge World Cup overall football fan. Arsenal, of course. And so much more to talk about. I've got a little list here. We've got a special guest tonight, Paper Stacks. He's going to be joining us to talk about some things that have occurred over the week and how fortunate he was to be a part of some of those things. Exactly. As you can see, I'm here in kind of what used to be our office, in the middle of cleaning some stuff out, going through a big sort. So one thing that will never be sorted or removed will be that bad boy. So if you can see it, I don't know if it's right side or not. It's the Woo, right? So we can't talk Knicks, can't talk NBA Finals without talking the Woo game, the largest comeback in NBA history, in Finals history. And I mean, as a Knicks fan, it was something to behold. Marky P and I actually did a test podcast that night, not knowing that they were going to have that comeback. We just kind of started at halftime because we were a little bored. So if I get his permission, I'll post that soon. But the Woo game, right? Wu-Tang performs at halftime. Madison Square Garden has a cleanse. And we all know the rest is history, right? I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And so the Wu-Tang have always been a big part of my life. I love Wu-Tang since I was a kid. Probably about I heard the 36 Chambers song in like 94. A little bit, of course, after it actually came out. I was 11 years old at that time. But always loved Wu-Tang. Loved the double album, of course. But this is from last year at Madison Square Garden. Their final tour and their only performance at Madison Square Garden. Me and Paper Stacks went. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But we always knew with Woo in the building, anything is possible. I think Fat Joe, a.k.a. Joey Crack, said it best when he said that God loves Wu-Tang, God loves the Knicks. So we saw the NBA Finals occur, and we saw the finale to that on Saturday evening into the night when we saw the Knicks, after 53 years, finally win the NBA Finals. I was telling a friend, I've never seen Patrick Ewing smile so much. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen him smile since I was like a kid, even as a player. He never smiled. But smiling ear to ear all series. And it's great. I saw J.R. Smith actually today talk about how he wishes other teams kind of took notice to what the Knicks do for their quote unquote alumni, the people who've played there before, regardless of how big or small their role was. And I think he's right in saying that the Knicks do that really well. Seeing Oakley on the in the building at Madison Square Garden, seeing John Starks and Patrick Ewing, and guys that I saw when I was a kid growing up on the TV, of course. But yeah. So before everybody calls me a poser, I have been a Knicks fan since I was a little kid. My whole family calls me Patrick, which is actually my middle name, and that's a whole different podcast. I'll tell you about that. But because of that, I loved Patrick Ewing, right? We had the same name. It was super cool. So I grew up loving Patrick Ewing, thus loving the Knicks. Of course, loved Jordan, which was a real dichotomy for a little kid, right? To see the greatest player of all time. And to have him just run over your team consistently was tough. But anyway, that wasn't this time. So take that, Spurs. I do think the Spurs will be back, though. think that's going to be something that Wemby, of course, is an incredible basketball player. Just not the mental game that we thought the chess playing in the park guy was. I mean, he is very young. I fold when I bet $1 on a golf game, so I can't imagine playing in that sort of environment. Anywho, he will win a championship, just not this year because the Knicks won. Yes. We of course saw the start of the World Cup. I had a lot of hopes on doing a World Cup episode actually before the World Cup started. Just didn't get a chance to. But one of the questions I wanted to ask is it okay to be excited about this World Cup? Because there's so much sort of, I don't want to say controversy, but just, America kind of sucks as far as the administration, right? And I think what's super cool about this World Cup, 5 days in, 6 days in, 7 days in? Nope, 6 days in. Today is Wednesday. Is that we see that a lot of this, and this isn't going to be some groundbreaking information, but we see that it is really the government that are driving a lot of this division and a lot of these problems and issues. When you get groups of people of different cultures, different backgrounds, different everything in the same place, they pretty much enjoy each other. And, especially in a low stress situation like a football match or whatever that is. And so, I see Scotland fans are a great example. The Tartan Army in Boston just absolutely wreaking havoc in the best Scottish way possible. And, they're playing the bagpipes with the drummers on the street. They're leading songs at the Red Sox games. And I think it's just a great way for us to all see. And you can say, look, Scottish people are easy to assimilate due to the complexity of the majority in this country. And I wouldn't disagree with you. However, I think we see it throughout a lot of other instances with Koreans in, Koreans in Mexico, or other people in Canada. There's so many games and they're so far apart. It's hard to keep track of where everything is all the time. And then teams move around. And that's really bothering me. Because I was telling a friend, I've got English friends. I used to live in England for a long time. And that's, again, a story for another podcast. But I was talking to them and I was like, what do you mean you're going to Toronto? And they're like, oh, well, they move there, they go there. I'm like, they're playing in Dallas. And he's like, no, well, that's when they first start to play. I'm like, what? They're having these guys fly around on planes, thousands of miles in days. I don't know. Just don't feel like it's the best use of their time or resources that we have. But hey, no one asked me. Until they do, I'm going to keep just running my mouth. If there's one thing I do very well, it is run my mouth and eat pie. I'm good at eating pie. I love pie. But anywho, I gotta stop saying anywho. That's the thing I gotta note. So I'm gonna put down on the notes the things I gotta take out. Remember, this is an evolution. We're starting as a seed and growing to a sapling, to a tree. I get Irish Chris on this bad boy. Another note. So we're going to be coming on here with my good friend, Paper Stacks. He was a guy who came in, he had the fortunate, I don't know, luck is the word, but he was in New York last weekend. He just happened to be there. Initially, I think, to see the Puerto Rican Day Parade. He's Dominican, so if that makes any sense. And then he was going to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, never been to there, and wanted to do that. And then was like, I'm going to go to Brazil, Morocco. And so he did that. And then Saturday night, bang, next one. So he got to have quite the New York weekend. So we are going to talk to old Dominican Paper Stacks here in a second. I'm actually going to have a little edit here. And once we get back, we will have Paper Stacks live and direct.